So this is me starting to make a character sprite the way I have been doing it for the last couple of years using Clip Studio Paint and DragonBones. It starts out here in Clip Studio Paint, and I've gone through a list of my old character designs to try to make, and I ended up settling on this one. This is an old drawing of mine from 2016 or so. Not that great, really, but the design is simple enough that I could easily turn her into a 2D asset. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do in this video or series of videos, I guess. This is my first time ever doing anything like this, so bear with me, please. Anyway, the first step is to design the character sprite in such a way that they will be viewed the most of the time in the game. And in my case, it will be kind of from a quasi front side view. Not quite front, not quite side, but some sort of in the middle. If she were 3D, she'd probably be standing sort of 3 or 1/4 turn. And I'm going to also make a back view the way I did with a previous character design. Let's see, this one right here, where I made the front view and the back view and this cape. And I ended up changing a lot about this character, but this was how she started and how she ended up. She's now functional in DragonBones and she can do a bunch of stuff. So you put all the body parts on a layer, drag this in, import into DragonBones, and then you can animate, which is a whole separate process. So that's how I made this character. So for this new one, this Smasher, for lack of a better name, the first thing I want to do is illustrate how I want her to look as a sprite. So I use the Clip Studio Paint sub view up here. You can open up any picture, import that to your sub view, and then you have a kind of a reference there. And you can separate if you want and make it larger and just have it part of your window here. So, and as you can see, I already have this colored mannequin type setup here. I decided to go ahead and make a template for myself that I can just refer to. So each part is already on its own layer. I could literally drag this file into DragonBones and build animations out of this if I wanted to, but before I do that, and by the way, that's not even a bad idea really, because you can change the way the parts look at any time. But for the sake of designing the sprite, I'm just going to show how I will go about turning this into a playable character. So the first thing I do is I leave that folder closed, and I'm going to make a new layer here and pick a drawing tool. Doesn't really matter what drawing tool you use, because this is going to be rough and sloppy. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a second layer and fill this one with white. And the reason for that, keyboard, and the reason for that is so I can create a sort of fade effect. That way I can still see the figure and draw over it. And for now, I'm just going to sketch on one layer, doodle real loose like. Got my pencil, and I'm not going to use white, I'm going to use red. The color's irrelevant. Well, maybe I can color pick from here. And I'll just pick this blue. It doesn't matter. The color is irrelevant because I'm just sketching. So, and I'm going to start with the torso. So I'm going to zoom in tight on the sub view here and get a sense of what her torso could look like. I see she's got this tank top thing going on, so I'm just going to start doodling around here somewhere. What I'm doing is establishing where her outfit will be roughly. I I can take each part and then draw it individually after the fact. Pretty simple, and I ought to really speed through this process. But just taking my time right now. I'm not even going to do the whole body yet, just going to start with the torso. That's the core piece. For a tank top, I might not even add detail here and just let the arm overlap it, because the key to this kind of animation is really overlapping parts and rotating them to make them look like moving body parts. And it just occurred to me that I did all that on the wrong layer. Oops. So we start over again. Fortunately, this is why we start rough and loose, so we don't, commit the dumb mistakes early. And didn't realize you have to undo 1,000,001 steps or start over from scratch because of something you neglected early on. Nope. Always be rough. Always take your time in the beginning. Don't worry about being sloppy. So, keeping it moving, making the torso, put her hint of an abdomen there. And for the torso piece also includes the neck. And I like to give an extra bit of space to the neck. So, they're like kind of like got some sort of hook things going on. I don't know what I was doing here. Remember that I did this drawing in 2016. That was 8 years ago. Wow. Anyway, for a sprite to be simple, as simple as possible, I don't even bother with face details. But her head shape is important. So I'm just going to kind of create a basic idea for where her head would be. And my drawing was pretty bad back then. Look how tiny those ears are, Jesus. So this is an opportunity to make her look a little better than she did in the past. And she has this headband on, because I guess I imagined her as some sort of like miner, sexy mining chick bashing rocks in a cave or something. So she got a light on her head, and we're gonna have an afro, and I'm thinking maybe I'll make the afro bigger than I did in the original drawing, just because nothing is final. Just clean it up a bit, and move on. You can drag the sub view around just like you can drag your view around by holding the space bar or using the hand tool. So she got bare arms. I'm just gonna sketch them. Again, I'm not tripping about detail. I'm just trying to get the idea down. And of course, this is an old illustration, old design, and I can change things if I want. But I like to stick to the general thoughts I had when I first created, just to streamline the process. She has these things on her arms as well. I'm just going to kind of supply that. Try to design to make it look similar to what I originally drew. And I'm not going to bother with the other arm right now because it's just going to be duplicated with a slight difference. Now her bikini bottom here, I'm just going to kind of put that in. Try to match what I did, but when I actually decide to design her, I'm probably not going to make it this skimpy. It'll be simpler, or maybe I will, I don't know, but it'll be simpler to just fill it in with one color, like something like this, and then overlap it with the thigh, and it'll look like a bikini bottom anyway. But while we're in a rough state, I'm just really just experimenting. I'm moving this up so it can kind of match, have room for the thigh there. just draw in. And yes, I could actually just start drawing the serious detail early, especially since I got the reference right there, and this is my character and all. But I'll do it this way so I can show how I would work if I was like doing, a commission, a character I didn't create. The process would be the same. I would want to like build it from scratch, turn it into my style, whatever. And like the arm, I'm not gonna draw both legs. Let's see here. Okay, I got these highly detailed kind of boots here. So, and kneecaps are great because you can actually make them separate objects and cover any uncomfortable seams that might show up when you bend the thigh or the shin. You can kind of just overlay them on top of the joint between the thigh, the knee, and the shin, and suddenly you have a good looking leg. Proportions are a little iffy. Even though I'm being rough here, I kind of want to have an idea of what it should look like. And I see there's like a gap here, and maybe I will just artistic license my design and simplify that. I don't know. I don't have to make it so completely like the original. It's not that great of a design. It's just some simple sexualized minor type, and I can just do whatever I want, change whatever. Do I even like these texture lines here? I don't know. Maybe. They're not on the arm parts. I kind of like to make the arm parts symmetrical. I just noticed that her hands are actually asymmetrical. So I'm debating which one of these I prefer, and I think I prefer this. So I'm just going to go ahead and wipe that out. Anyway, I don't know if people knew this, but in Clip Studio Paint, you can just press the C key and it'll make your brush transparent. I call it the clear brush. You can see it change. If you hit C, it just goes. Of course, X changes your color, but you use C if you want to erase without having to switch to the eraser. It's kind of nice. Let's see. Well, even though I'm not going to probably give her eyes, I'm just going to kind of give a suggestion of where her features would land. And again, like I said, I'm not going to do the arm and leg twice. Instead, I'll hit copy paste here, flip horizontal, just kind of put it here. For the leg, oops, hit the volume up on my headset there by accident. Switch to the lasso, and I'm gonna copy the shin here and the foot. Again with the copy paste, and just kind of do this. And no, I'm not gonna go through the trouble of making the foot accurate to the pose. I just need to separate the two. And finally, I do the same thing with the thigh. Habit of hitting that L key. Copy paste, rotate, put it somewhere nearby. It's on a separate layer, so I'm going to get rid of this. And then fill this in as if the knee were underneath it, just for the sake of clarity. And what I often like to do is, if it's going to be the more distant leg, I will kind of draw it as if it's kind of more outward facing. So it's kind of like a side thigh, where this was more frontal, just for a slight visual difference. And that's the basic build. Make sure I didn't miss any details. Right, she got the barcode on her arm. I'm gonna go ahead and just add a suggestion of that. I'll even make it blank so I can see the difference. That can be part of her overall design. I don't like the head shape. She got earrings on. Did I give her earrings? No. Good. Does she need them? Well, not really. Maybe I'll add them if she's not going to be a miner. Finally, let's talk about the hammer. The hammer, pretty basic. Not going to put too much thought into it right now. I'm going to hit the rectangle tool. I'm going to pick this color. And I'm going to draw some simple shapes. Actually, I'm even going to take this one further and just pick the symmetrical brush. Where is my symmetrical brush? Here it is. Ruler, rather. Symmetrical ruler. And then start doing this. Just so it's kind of believably symmetrical. I'll edit it after the fact, but this will be my starting point. Even though this is all stiff, it's still a fine foundation for the final design. Just so I have an idea of what shapes I want. The part's too thick. Again, when I designed this, I realized, if anything about this is just like a terrible feature or detail that don't need to be there, I can simplify it or eliminate it. That's the beauty of this work. You got control even after you've animated it. Like right now, I'm like, do I even want these spikes on the side? I don't think I do. But I can also remove them later, so I'm going to go ahead and add them because we're being rough. And the hammer should have some detail to it. I'm not really super concerned about keeping these looking good right now, just roughing. Probably doing too much roughing. I should just get to work. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this ruler. And I'm going to scale this hammer some ways so I feel a little better about it. Actually, it's really just the head that's bugging me. Okay, and then I'm going to put it on its own layer. Just see how that looks in her hand. Sort of. So, you can always scale it later, but alright, so let's just say I stop there. I'm gonna leave those bent and copy body parts on separate layers. So for my next trick, and her legs I just noticed are asymmetrical too, but I'm not gonna worry about that. A sprite should be as symmetrical as possible. Let's see. Well, simplest thing to do now is to move on to creating some refined lines. If I want lines. Sometimes I don't like to make lines. Sometimes I like to just use color shapes. So here's something I can do real quick. think, yes, I was right. I remember I changed the body parts to skin tone. I can just draw over them, but I missed a few parts. I see why a lot of people who make these videos make scripts. Anyway, it's kind of tricky trying to figure out what to do next. I'm going to put the sub view back over here. I don't actually need it to be that prominent. It's my drawing. I know what she looks like. Another little tip. If you pick any layer and hit Control B, you can turn it into like a non-photo blue type of style. And maybe you can use that as your reference. Turn the background to a gray. Not dark enough. Let's make it nice and dark. Okay. And then you think, oh, you're going to start drawing now? Sort of, but not quite. Instead, I'm going to grab every piece from here one by one, copy it, and then paste it here. And then fill it with a color. Let's pick her skin tone, maybe somewhere in the middle. With transparency lock, fill that. And that could be the head. In case anyone's wondering, no, that's not pubic hair. I was trying to draw her dirty from mining. Guess I screwed that up. Anyway, listen, I'm probably not going to detail the face, so I'm trying to think of my approach here. Do I want outlines? Let's see. I got this color selected. My fill lasso, which is probably my favorite tool in the program. I have set it up so I have shadow type and highlight type. And I can do something like add some features that I may or may not keep. But don't go over your shadow. Just pick a different brush. And don't get too caught up even now in the details. Just kind of put something down. You can always change it later. You probably will. Now she's going to have this afro as a separate object. But for her actual head, I'm going to do something like this. And I can shade it if I need to. It's all very basic and all very simple right now. See, the thing is, you can approach this without worrying too much about the quality, as long as you're making it reasonably half decent, because you can literally change it whenever you want. I've completed whole sprite rigs like this and then changed the drawing way after the fact, added more detail, changed the proportions, because once you get it into DragonBones, you can just change it and it will update automatically. So do your best, make an effort, make it look good, but don't trip right at this juncture. This is the beginning. So, and I'll label this layer head front. Now, I'm going to just repeat the process. I'm going to go straight to the hair using these colors. I'm going to make a new layer, put it underneath for now. So it looks like it's behind her. Use that color. And I'm just going to go ahead and just draw a shape. Say it's an afro. Lock transparency. Pick this highlight color. Hide the head so I can see what I'm doing. Maybe add some puff detail here. I don't know. Come back to this later. Let's move it out a bit. Doesn't have to match the reference or anything. The reference is just a general idea. You design the character the way you want. And when, of course, you start animating, you'll do stuff like this. You might even squash it and stretch it. Oh, for her head, the headband. I'm going to come back to that. I'll just use the same colors because it's simpler. Put the transparency lock on. To make it look as neat as possible, I'll use the curve tool, and I'm going to make one side tapered. I think. Let's do a layer on top just in case I screw up, which I'm very likely to do. See, it's too thin. So I'm going to hit transform and keep original image and kind of stretch it out a bit. Something like that. And I'm going to turn that off and line it up. And while we're still in the same layer, lock transparency and give it some shadows and highlights. You might feel like this is kind of lazy feeling and sloppy or whatever, but the actual truth is when you're making a sprite, you want to be simple. It's not sloppy so much as it's simplified. Because ultimately the character's going to be really small on screen, like pretty much like that small. Details will disappear and get lost. So don't even put that much work in, I'll be honest. Just enough to get a read. In fact, I'm going to hide the soups. Wrong brush. There we go. Ironically, not having her face actually sometimes gives her more personality, because the player, the viewer, the reader, whatever, will often put their own personality into the character. That'll allow them to imprint on it a little bit better. That's been my experience. I've played so many video games where your protagonist just had no face. Your Castlevania games, etc. It was like you still had a feeling you knew who they were. What I'm doing right now is creating a slight gap where the base of the neck is going to be. And the reason for that is, well, it's not really necessary, but it's something I like to do to make the head shape feel more appealing. Because once I bring in the torso, which is probably the most crucial part, I took it too far. But sometimes I just like to move the head down a little bit. And what's going to happen is the head is going to pivot here. So you can make the character look up and give the sense that the neck is kind of stretching, and look down. So always save your work. The image size, I think, well, I don't know much about image sizes as far as making game assets. I just chose to make it 4K. But when you get into DragonBones or whatever, you're going to want to scale it down anyway. And when you export into a game engine, you're probably going to want to export and scale it down even further. Probably not. The one thing I don't know much about is making game assets that are correct. I just know what's worked for me. So we're on the torso. I'm going to keep up with the naming. I call this hair. So, time to tackle the elephant in the room, which is, well, what do you do? How do you make her jiggle? And I'm like, well, you just do it. You make the breasts separate objects. But we start with the torso. I'll put a layer on top, pick the color, the darkest color of her top, and I'm going to put my reference on top of her for a minute, or rather move this down. I don't need that anymore. Where is my, never mind, okay. Now where is my blank layer? Put it there. I'll put all of these in a group actually. I can blow it out past the at will. And hide these distracting parts for a minute. So I can focus. I'm going to just draw her top. Start with the shape. Don't trip too much about it being so neat and clean, because again, you can always clean this up. I fill in the bottom here. I'll merge it down after. So this is feeling a little too lopsided, so I'm just going to white this out a little bit more. I don't really like the angle of this, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to fill it in. Temporarily. I can always erase later. Digital art. And I'm just going to go ahead to grab the following items. This. And this. Then I'm going to make them both the same color. And then I'm going to temporarily turn them blue so I can see where they are. And now I'm going to start. We'll come back to the arms later. Bring that torso back. And then start cleaning up. Sometimes I forget that I have the clear bar selected and I end up erasing stuff. In fact, it happens too often, I should say. Alright, so obviously you can't see anything, so you need the shade. We'll come back to those. But for now, I'm going to take these three parts and make them one. This is actually so dicey. I often get these wrong. Wrong layer. Again, the great thing about this method is you just draw over it until you're happy. Select this only, so now I'm regretting actually merging it down, but I'm not going to go backward. Plus, the upper body needs to be changed anyway. I mean, the way it's drawn. I gotta add those details over here. So, I'm gonna slow my roll, I won't worry about this. And instead, work on something else. With the transparency locked, I'm gonna zoom in tight. Grab this and get this color. Actually, get the darkest. No, get that one. And I'm just gonna draw over this part. I thought my transparency was locked. Oh, duh. A lot of artists don't make a ton of mistakes when they work, or rather, they don't show you the mistakes. Ain't no shame in my game. I'm only human. Besides, I think it's pretty important to let people know that it's not perfect. It can be filled with mistakes and embarrassing gaffes and dumb things that come out your mouth that you shouldn't have said. Very few people are perfect in their way of speech. I rehearse this, I write no script. Maybe I should have, but I figured dive right in. Anyway, I have a tendency to ramble. My wife hates it. I'm just trying to make this look somewhat good. I know what I said earlier about not bothering with too many precise details, but it needs to at least look decent when zoomed out. have these buttons here, which I guess I was trying to make look like some sort of gold, silvery metal. I might go for a brighter color just so they stand out more. But that color's kind of brownish. I don't know if I like that. Something about that is bothering me. But I'm going to decide later whether it bothers me too much. Let's move on to the rest. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to separate the flesh part of the torso. So that I can draw over it comfortably. What's going on here? Why is that not working? That's weird. Oh! Right. Truly. I suck at this. Not really. Am I nervous because I'm on camera? Or rather recording this? No. I'm always nervous. That is my natural state. That's why I'm such an introvert online. Quick test of the head. See how that looks. To me, it looks like her neck is. Her head is casting shadow over her neck a little bit. So that's what we want. Saving. File's getting bigger. I'm gonna start getting rid of all these extraneous layers eventually. Since my computer's not the strongest. We're not done with the torso though, obviously, unless I want her to be bottomless. Perhaps not for this video. Actually, let me just do something else real quick. First, I'm gonna merge these together. Then I'm gonna cut out some of this torso. Give her some muscle definition. Or my feeble attempt at it. Actually, I feel like this is way too much. Because I noticed when I drew her here, she has kind of a defined separation of pelvis and hip. And it'd be nice to bring that across in the image, but it's not strictly speaking necessary. Anyway, for the bottom on her, while I still have time. I don't actually need the reference. And of course now I'm questioning whether I should even have bothered with the sketch. Like I said, I know this character, I designed this character. So, and I've done this process so many times that I probably could have streamlined it a lot, but for the sake of showing others how I do this, warts and all, I figure I might as well go through the process. And then I would make sure that transparency lock is on. Retrospect shaded that part, but I did. Keep the colors consistent and use this color. And just kind of fill this in. Real quick about the thighs. Like say I grab this thigh right here. Which one? Where is it? There it is. Grab that, paste this on top of the torso, and make it the same color as her skin. Then, without changing anything else, it could just be like this. And with some adjustments, it will look like she's got that bikini bottom on. And I don't actually have to force it in there. However, if I want to make it, skimpier, then I can also use this color and kind of go around. Oops. And do the same thing. But we're not finished yet. So I'll merge this down here. And perhaps, maybe I want that stripy pattern. So I take this color and just draw it in. Change my mind is as easy as just painting over it again. But for now, I'm gonna leave it. Always end up making it too thick. Some more adjustments. This cast shadow under here is strictly for the boobs, so that they can look like they're casting a shadow. Again, not really necessary. That was a mistake. I almost feel like I should, at this point, speed through the process. Just turn it into like a time lapse for the rest of the figure. Because the work is going to be pretty much the same, it's just different body parts. So, unfortunately, I don't think I know how to do that. Well, let's just move on to the thigh for right now. Parts can always be changed. At this point, I've established kind of a pattern with the character design, where I'm going to have like this color as a border. Separated by the cloth and the stripy pattern. And for real, I think it's actually a pretty logical idea to not worry at all about details and just establish color and shape. Because I can always draw over the details again. And this is why I wouldn't worry about the thigh. I'm just going to duplicate it, put it behind the torso. I could darken it, you know, make it look like it's different. But for now, it just helps to just give it a different name. I'm going to call it thigh side. And this one I'm going to call thigh front. Call this torso again. Could the boobs be one object instead of two? Certainly could be. That wouldn't be bad, especially if you're only making one view. That works. But separating them allows you to use one of them as a side boob for the rear view parts. So you can multitask. And keeping them separate allows you to have more flexibility with animation, as it were. So I'm going to do this the simpler way now. Grab each part, paste it in, color it the base color, and then add a sample of the details. Actually, that's closer. I'm going to make this one a little brighter so it's a clear distinction. And draw over it with the fill lasso. I'm going to just try to make it look similar. It's not working. As long as the parts are on separate layers, you can pretty much do whatever you want with them. Turns out I don't need to do the whole artistic license thing. Alright, so now we have the shin that can do like this. The base version of it. And although it's not part of my usual plan, I can go ahead and make the kneecap as a separate object. I'm going to pick an arbitrary color and just kind of draw it over. Let's look at the basic shape and just kind of. Tolerance to high that bond. I'll worry about the rest. Hell, that's actually really kind of bad. So, what I could do to make it look a little neater is use the curve tool again. Put that in the alias, get rid of this tapering and lower the brush size to something reasonable. And then do like brown color. Too thick. Thin, but I can always draw over it. Spending too much time on details. He knows this. But sometimes he feels he must. It's also not critical that the parts are straight or aligned properly right now either. I could take this kneecap and do this and leave it like that, but there's no need. It will just blur up the pixels. Sometimes I kind of wish I had skills with vector drawing apps. But they'd still have to be converted to raster PSDs for the next step anyway, so it's not super helpful. All right, feet. Grab one of these, paste it on top of the shin. Looking at how I designed her actual foot, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can't replicate that on the shin. So I took this really dark color here. I want pitch black. That's then kind of fill this in. Adding highlights. It's not time for that. Can't help myself though. And I'm gonna grab this color again. Put a new layer. And kind of just create something close to that shape. As I look at it, I realize it's not really designed that well, so I'm just gonna make up something a little bit close. You actually don't need this part, so you can just kind of cut that off. What's gonna happen is the foot is gonna be under this. might end up making a foot smaller or the leg bigger, whatever. So the leg can do like this. But you think, well, that's never going to look right. There's an answer to that in DragonBones, actually. Mesh transformation. Where did I go wrong? I keep forgetting to change it back to the original fill lasso. It's a bad habit. Not foot front or side, because I'm just going to repurpose this to make the other feet. You see how she's coming together. So next we'll do the arm. I'm just going to go ahead and save some time and grab the palm, forearm, and the upper arm all at once and put them all on top of the torso. And I'm going to move them all into a position that suits the situation. And we'll start with the upper arm. Naturally, we're going to make it the same color as her skin. So we can do like this. Actually, we want all these on top of, really on top of everything. They go on the very top. After all, if you're looking at me in view from the side, your arm would be in front of your head. So they really go on top of everything. And just for the sake of a starting point, I'm going to draw some detail in here. Just a little, and I used the wrong brush. As I tend to do. One day I will remember not to do that. That's enough for now. And this shading isn't even what I would call good shading. It's just there to really give me a sense of where the parts are. I'll go back and redraw these parts, reshade them and all that over and over until I'm happy with it. Let's see. Let's do this one a little differently. Studio Paint has so many neat little tools that make things simpler. If you were on the fence about a drawing tool, Clip Studio Paint might be the one for you. I will say though that even though they don't really have a subscription on desktop, the fact that they have it on mobile kind of sucks. I had it for iPad, but I canceled the sub because you see how complex this interface is. It's fine on a 1080 or 4K or 8K screen or whatever, but on the iPad, not so much, in my opinion. I'm gonna try slapping these orbs in. Too big. Actually, I'm gonna put on a fresh layer and I can make it as big as I need to and move it as I need to, and easier that way. Okay, forearm. By now, the drill is known, and I'm going to stop using my highlight and shadow brushes because, in all honesty, I really should have every color I need now. And just like with her ankles, they're going to be cut off so that I can put the hand underneath it and make it look like it's bending. Let me see something. This pen is pretty solid. If I make it really thick, I should just be able to draw something like this. Do I like the way that looks? It's kind of a mess. But the size this is going to be, it's not going to matter. For my color history. Let's hide the palm for a minute. Nope, not going to do that. Nope. I'm going to get rid of this part of the palm. Actually, that was actually not a bad idea. Just in case I need to make some adjustments. Maybe not. Okay, merge that down. So the arm, the forearm here will rotate like this. I'm like, oh no, you need to give her more muscle tone. Yes, I could. Now I'm feeling like I neglected the thighs a bit. So let me just do that real quick. satisfied. If I'm unsatisfied with, I can change it later. One more thing. I don't like that too much. Oops. Stop doing that. Never. These parts here look a little rough. So I'm just going to straight up pick a color as the main coating. Again, at this range, it doesn't matter. And zoomed out, it's going to be barely noticeable. Almost got enough information to actually show how the animation process works. And that sounds like a decent idea. Because what I'm going to do is also demonstrate the fact that you don't really have to worry about the quality of the art that much. You can always change your imagery to a point. You could really get by with just basic shapes. That's like I said in the beginning, that I could literally have just taken the mannequin and animated that. I absolutely could have. Probably should have. For those who are more interested in seeing the sprite creation process. As opposed to the art process, which, varies. I don't claim to be the greatest artist on the planet. I like what I do, but I'm not the one to learn from if you want to learn how to draw. I'll do the shading later. Another thing I need to do is get rid of this thigh because I'm not going to make it again. I'm going to duplicate this thigh, put it behind the torso, and change it to thigh side. Okay. And then we're going to put it, I'm not going to rotate it because again that will mess up the pixels. I'm also going to, I'm going to do something else. Get it out and pick this color. Here we go. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab this section, copy paste, clipping mask, so I can move it over a little bit. Then take this one and get rid of there. Push this down. So it's got a little bit of distinction to it. They're supposed to have the orbs on them too. Kind of forgot about that. This is going to be covered in kneecap anyway. It can be adjusted later. Later. He's always saying later. Yeah. Once I jump to DragonBones, you'll see what I mean. But this shin is looking a little too flat for me, so I'm going to do a little something to it. Just to give it a little bit of life. This is not part of the original drawing. experiment a lot. Oops. No, I cut off the wrong parts. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. Experimenting. Want to learn from a pro? Go watch Mode Brunette. If you want to see the silly way I make sprites, well, here it is. I will scale kneecap down some. Oh, I never merged these down. Wait. The shin should be separate from the kneecap, so it could be a separate object. But it defeats the purpose of the kneecap if you can see the bottom of the thigh underneath. I'll have to make some adjustments. And yep, she's coming together, all right. You're at an hour and 19 minutes. Sorry. What now? You might be wondering, why bother making copies? Because you need multiple versions of the parts for DragonBones to identify as individual unique units, even if they look exactly the same. I didn't forget about the barcode. I could have added later, but it looks like a sloppy mess. But it's just an indicator. did that. I'll probably end up changing it later. Note to self, maybe don't do this at 11 o'clock at night. Getting old. Well, at any rate, let's focus on the hammer. Yes, I find myself wishing I had actually kept that symmetrical ruler now. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to use this, save some time. I'll draw the real hammer later. Anymore. I'll clean up the line work so it doesn't look completely like a sloppy mess. Truth be told, you don't really need a symmetrical ruler. If you ain't satisfied with how it looks on both sides, just pick one. Then cut it in half and duplicate the half and flip it again to make a hole. But this is just a placeholder hammer. Whew. So, very briefly, this character looks sloppy, right? Well, it could be better. I'm going to open up DragonBones again just to make a point. Let's say I wanted to make this sword a different color. Well, if you go to DragonBones here in the library, the sword object is here, and this is inside of my actual database. So if I were to go back to Clip Studio Paint or whatever art program, and just a second while I dig this up, there's a library of parts that DragonBones maintains. So there's the actual sword. So I could literally say, you know what, let's make the sword blue. I'm just going to use my lasso tool here, lock the transparency, and I'm going to just pick the blade. I'll pick half the blade. Now hit Control I. That's weird, isn't it? Let's just pick a blue, any blue, Alt backspace, clipping mask, overlay, multiply. It doesn't matter, just pick whatever. Just as a point. Save it. It's going to want me to save it as PNG. Once you save it, keep your file open, and go back to DragonBones, and you see the sword literally changed in real time. And all the animations that she currently has will reflect that change. All of them. You want to change it back, that's why I keep your file open. I can just go back to what I did before and save it again, and DragonBones reflects it real time. It has a library of parts that is created when you create your actual file. So right here, I could stop here. I was going to make the back view parts, but I can do that another time. It's a tedious operation, and honestly, it's not that much different from the front view parts, except I have to do a lot more decision making about what they look like. So I'm actually going to eliminate this whole folder of parts. All these parts, don't need them. Get rid of this and that too, and the paper. So now we just have the character. So anything in this layer? Right, the back view reference. Don't need that for this operation. Get rid of these two. And just run through real quick, and I'm going to rename all these layers. But it's crucial that you actually do this, because the names are going to be locked in, and this is where things can be made more or less tedious. I'm just going to look, see if did I miss anything? Nope, doesn't look like it. All right, save the file. Then you should probably save it as a PSD. So I'm going to change this to Photoshop Documents, same name. And actually, I'm going to scale it down. Let's just go ahead and make the height 1080p. And I'm going to set it to nearest neighbor. Save it again. Now, keep track of where that file is. In fact, I'm going to Shift Control S to bring up this window and leave it up. And the reason I'm leaving it up is I'm going to open up DragonBones now again. I'll close this one. And here's how the sprite making starts. You're going to click New Project and create animation. Armature template. All this is fine. Don't change nothing here. The canvas will come into play later. So you hit Finish. And then I'm going to minimize this window a little bit so I can see both of these. And DragonBones, I might have to move to the other window temporarily. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this very PSD file. Where's DragonBones? I wish I could kind of do it in a way that it can show, but I'm going to drag this PSD into DragonBones. And when that happens, DragonBones is going to ask me, I'm going to do it the other way around so I can show it. Move my dialog box there, put DragonBones on the monitor. Now when I drag the PSD in, it's going to import PSD. It's crucial, in my opinion, to put the root here where the character's feet will be. And you should probably reduce the scale. I'm going to reduce it to 50% and hit import. Boom. There she is. Let me minimize Clip Studio. And here's the character. I'm going to lock the root so it can't be selected. And then put the character more or less where she would be in the center. And these are all the objects, and you can really put these wherever you want. And once you save the project, I'm going to pick a different folder for her. Let's see, Smasher, I guess her name is. I'm going to select this folder, and I'm going to call her Smasher Sprite. Copy library, make sure that's checked, hit Finish. Once that's done, just a second here. In that very folder, there's the DragonBones file, and the library will have all the parts that I created. And these are all PNG files that you can open and change at will. So you can make her look better later. As long as your shapes are intact and you don't go beyond the bounding boxes, you can do whatever you want. So with this in play, the next thing to do would be to give her a skeleton. And I'll just run through that real fast. I won't do the animation right now because this video is pretty long, but I will go ahead and do the skeleton real quick. And how I like to do that is you click this tool right here, create bone, which is the E button, E key rather, and somewhere around here, I'll draw one straight down. Doesn't really matter how, you don't have to be perfect with it. And I immediately rename it, and I'll call this one B_COG, which stands for center of gravity. That's where I always start. With that bone selected, you drag another one, and we're going to call this one the B torso. The bone that you have selected will become the parent of the next bone you make. So with the torso selected, I will drag one here and call this the B upper arm 1. Right here, call it B forearm 1. And then from here to the B fist 1, I guess. Now, click the torso again and go over here this time. You want to start from where you think the joint will be, basically, but you can actually move the bones later, so you don't have to be that precise. Upper arm 2. Drag again. Forearms. I like to use naming convention. Forearm 2. this down, hit F2, and call it B is 2. And once again, we're going to click the torso, and we're going to drag and put it here, up, B, head. And with the head selected, I'm going to drag one out this way and call it B, hair. And we'll go back to the center of gravity, drag one down this way, F2, call it B, thigh 1. From the thigh, drag down, B, shin 1. I'm hitting F2 to rename, just like in other apps. B, foot 1. Use the right mouse button to drag around. The middle mouse button zooms in and out. You can also scroll with it. Click the cog again. Second bone. B, thigh 2. From here, shin 2. Here, B, foot 2. Just about done. Now the hammer can get its own bone. So I'm going to click the root. But since the root can't be selected, I need to undo that temporarily. And then I'm going to add a bone to the hammer. I want this to be as straight as possible, but it's okay if it's not perfect. We're going to have 2B hammer. And you know what? I'm going to make this straight up minus 90. Okay. Now, what do you do next? Well, by the way, I could have made the bone, the hammer, a parent of this hand, and I could do that later. But I found it with my other character when I was parenting the sword to the hand. It messed up some of my animations. I had to do a lot of manual changing, and it was tedious. It's better if I can just move the hammer freely. All right, now, if you pick this select button, you can click a bone, and you see you have your control handles here. You got your left and right, up and down, and scaling. And if you drag, you see the mouse cursor is turned into a rotate option. But oh no, what is this? It's moving along without the body part. That's right. The images have to be parented to the bone. There are many ways to do this. The easiest way I find is to remember what you named your layers and just, for instance, the hammer, drag it on top of the hammer bone. And now that bone controls the hammer. And you just kind of repeat this. You find the bone that matches the body part. And I realized I named the hand palm and the bone fist, so I made things difficult for myself for no reason. Oh, I forgot. More bones. Torso. We need 2 of these. One here. We're going to call this B, breast, front. And click the torso again. It's going to be dicey without touching that bone. F2, B, breast, side. Okay, now I can continue. What about the kneecap? Well, the kneecap could get its own bone. I think I will give it its own bone. I did that with a different character. My scythe wielding chick, Christiana. So I'm going to add another bone here. And I'm going to call it B cap 1. I'll click this one. That. Hit B. I might have to change the parenting, I don't know. But we'll keep moving. Kneecap 1. Shin 1. And you basically just match them to the bones you prepared for them. This list is going to get long, but you don't have to worry about it. Where is thigh front? Thigh 1. See, I screwed up my naming convention. Should have matched it. 2. And like I said, there are many ways to do this. This can start to get tedious, so there is another way. You can click the image here, which the name will show up here, and then I can hit P and click the bone that I want it to be on. Some of these are already done, but I'm just going to redo them so they don't hurt nothing. And if you think you're done, turn off image selection, which is down here, and then select all the bones. And then, well, let's lock the root again. Don't want that to move ever. So select all the bones. Oops, I didn't lock them all. Okay, try again. Select everything and then rotate. And no images go. We forgot the torso. The torso does not have a bone. Gotta make image selectable again. So click that, hit P, and click that. And then move the whole thing. If everything rotates, you're good. The next thing to be concerned about is your draw order. As you can see, the hammer here is overlapping everything. If you go to your draw order, you can move it up or down. You can also use the minus key to move it down, the equal key or plus to move it up. Like I said, I'm not going to do any real animation today. But that is basically how you put a character together. And if and when I want to approve the visual, I will just go to Clip Studio again, open the character's library, and grab the part I want to fix, like the torso. And I can change something here. For instance, I can decide to select all the parts that are discolored. Make sure I got them all quick mask, and I can decide to color them something different. And I can save it. And then I go back to DragonBones, and that green color will immediately be there. And let's say you goofed and decided to actually close the file. Oops. So that change is locked in. Well, that's why you keep your original. You go back to your original file where you made the character in the first place, then reopen the part that you changed, just paste it. Delete the messed up one, merge it down, save the file. It might actually overwrite. And you do that, and it's restored to the way it was. To start animating, I'm not going to do any serious animation, but to set it up, you'd want to pick all your bones. Pick them all. And then you hit K to make them all keyframe here. See these white lines? These are keyframes. And what I like to do is I like to just call this one the base. Rename it and call it base. And that will be the one that I will always use to start animation off. So for animation, I would clone this one. And let's say I just wanted to call it pilot test. How animation works in this program is very simple. I like to use auto key. You have your first frame here. Let's say I want to take this to 30 frames, at 30 FPS. Let's say 24, because that's the default here. I will copy and paste the same exact frame here for a looping animation, and then come to 12 and paste it again. But maybe this time we grab this bone. You can only animate bones, not images. And maybe I'll take the hammer and put it like here. So what happens is it will automatically interpolate between these two frames. Of course, because I did not do a whole lot of planning, that's silly. But that's how animation will work. Maybe next time I will go into the process of doing something actually real. And I think I am going to end up parenting the hammer to the hand there. So I'm going to click this bone and hit P and click that bone. And that actually attaches the hammer. So now if I move this hand, and if I move this arm, which I need to adjust, as you can see, I need to adjust the way the bones are. But that's okay, you can do that. Just move the image down a little bit, close to the joint, and then move the bone up. And you have something that's a little more believable. And you can actually adjust these on the fly too, to see if that changed things in this test animation. Not really. Well, here's a fix. Get rid of that broken frame and replace it with a better frame. So now it goes, and if you play it, it'll loop. Hide the bones. So that's the basics. So in less than 2 hours, I produced a basic character, Sprite rig, set her up for DragonBones, and got her ready for more. And I can always go back to the library again and improve the images, which I will do. You don't actually need this file anymore, but it's useful if you want to draw over it and then just import the parts into the library. And that is the start of how this whole process works. After that, it's just refinement. And I guess that's it for now, because I'm kind of tired and I could do the rest later, and it'll take longer to go into animation and such. So thanks for watching, and if you put up with me and my rambling and my stuttering and my mistakes for all this time, I really appreciate you. Peace out.